Let's get it. Aswand Cruickshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, checking in for a daily Move Swiftly thought, giving you a perspective on teamwork that you will not get anywhere else. Where we do not teach you how to rise to the occasion. We teach you how to fall to your level of preparation. A really, really nippy Florida coldish day out here in South Florida. Seeing that, yeah, I think there's a cold front coming in. I gotta make sure I get some long sleeves. It's literally the only long sleeve I have, so I gotta pick up some sweats and stuff like that because we're getting into that season where there are days that, again, I don't say cold because I grew up in the Northeast, but Florida cold. It lasts from like this time to maybe about 10 a.m. when the sun comes up, and then things kind of get back to what Florida does and why people move out here, right? So all that being said, Top 5 Tuesday. Continuing the conversation, continuing this week's theme about developing some fight and how you actually have some fight in you. Top 5 ways to develop fight in you, to have the mentality of some resilience, to be strong enough to say, hey, I have certain things I'm not going to stand for, and to be able to speak on it, not go run around crying to somebody else about how somebody did this, somebody did that, but to go directly to a person and be professional about how you address certain things. That's what we're discussing today. So top five ways to develop that in a way that's going to progress you and give you the opportunities that you deserve and give you better opportunities, lead to more opportunities in the future. All right. So first thing you got to do, and you probably could have guessed it, is you got to exercise. You got to put yourself on a regular schedule in which you're testing your limits, you're pushing yourself. And I say exercise, I don't mean just walking into the gym with some cute workout outfit and talking all fucking day. I'm talking about actually putting some hard work in, seeing some results, shedding off some weight, and really starting to develop the mentality of I'm going to get my body right, get my health right, and I'm going to take control of that. So that's the first thing you got to do, and then a lot of opportunities will come to you, right? So number 1 is exercise. Number 2, you got to be humble. Got to be humble enough to know when, hey, somebody has an expertise in this. In fact, just last night, had a conversation with a guy. Listen, man, I won't put his name out there or anything like that now, but listen, man, he taught me so much in terms of just the finances and the finance world and a lot of things that I've already been doing, some of the things I know, but, understanding his expertise, it was such an incredible, to the point where we talked for an entire hour, and didn't realize that a whole hour went by. So, again, I'll have more information on that as we go along. So, but to be humble enough to know when you can go to somebody else or have somebody else mentor you and teach you certain things about what it is you want to be doing in the future. Number 3, information. Kind of leads from humility right into information. You gotta have the information. You cannot sit down in a meeting full of grown business professionals and start talking about your fucking feelings, all right? You gotta have information, actual information that's written, that's actually documented, and actual things that happen, factual stuff that actually happened, not your feelings and not your opinions and not how this one made you feel and how this one is hurting you and this one said that to you and this one didn't say sorry with this. That's not the environment for this, all right? When it comes to developing fighting you got to actually have information to be able to progress and actually make a difference, all right? So number 3, information. Number 1, exercise. Number 1, exercise. Number 2, humility. Number 3, you got to have action. You got to fight with facts, fight with information. Number 4, you got to have a damn personality. All right, plain and simple. You got to have a personality. Again, doing the work that I previously mentioned, it's going to make it so you stop giving a fuck and you stop caring about how people may perceive you or like you and all this other bullshit that I have to hear on a daily basis. And you start actually having a personality that shows the minute you start talking, the minute you start getting on certain topics. And when you have that personality, then people can just kind of adjust to whatever your personality is. But if you're always timid and you're always hiding and you're always, maybe not saying what you want to say, letting certain things go and all this other bullshit that I have to hear, okay, you're not going to get anywhere. So you got to actually have a personality that shows. And finally, you got to be willing to make the long-term commitments. Understand, 1 through 4, I am not saying that they're easy, but if you are already in a place where you can see yourself committing long-term, whether it's relationally, whether it's professionally, whether it's physically, if you can see yourself committing long-term to the situation, then 1 through 4 start to become worth the work. It's worth the effort to be able to do all 4 of those things, right? So to recap, Top, and again, I'll dive deeper into all these as we get into the as we get into the live stream today. Top 5 ways to develop fight in you. Number 1, exercise. Number 2, humility. Number 3, you gotta have information, like factual information to fight with. Number 4, you gotta have a damn personality. All right. Number 5, you gotta be willing to play the long game and have long-term commitments. All right. So all that being said, main website to check out to dive deeper into all my work. It's makeyourmove.com. That's makeyourmove.com. One-stop shop for your teamwork and your self-development needs. Aswand Cruickshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker. Check it out.
You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon. Again, Aswand Cruickshank here, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current 6-time published author and educator. And if you didn't catch that, what I do, what I created, what the whole Move Swiftly platform is all about is taking the innovative teamwork lessons that you learn on the football field and applying them to businesses and business owners so they have a staff and or a group of employees that moves as efficiently, as cohesively, as passionately as a championship high school or youth football team. If you are interested in employee development workshops, again, go to that website that you see right there. It's called makeyourmove.com. That's makeyourmove.com. Whatever information that you need to find on me, it's available right there. You can shop. You can read more on my books and all the intellectual property I have out there. Everything that you need to have is right there on makeyourmove.com. And I am also very Googleable. I guarantee you there's not another Aswand Cruickshank that you're going to meet. So, you can go ahead and hit up Google as well, and it'll provide you with whatever information you need. But I'm telling you from the heart, because I'm living through it myself. I'm not talking at you, I'm talking to you because it's something I'm living through myself, is the companies that make it, the ones that really stand the test of time, invest in employee development, and it is a worthwhile investment because there are things probably going on in your organization that you have absolutely no idea is happening, and it can ultimately affect your job. So the way somebody else feels, again, we're going to talk about today, the way somebody else feels about another person ultimately could get you fired because you had no idea about how that person felt, and because this person just decided that they were going to keep it to themselves or only tell a person that they were comfortable in telling. Next thing you know, everybody else is affected because this person didn't feel a certain way. And when it comes to putting fucking food on the table, when it comes to bills being paid, when it comes to real life shit, you can't go to your kids and be like, hey, I lost my job because of the way somebody else felt. Kiss my ass with that bullshit. All right. At the end of the day, you especially when it comes to what we're going to be discussing today, you got to develop the fight in you to get out of your comfort zone, because what you do and how you act affects other people. All right. And that's the thing. Your goals and your dreams and the things that you want to do in your life, it affects other people. When you have a job, when you're working with people, it affects other people. Stop just thinking about your damn self and get out your own fucking feelings. It's important that you make sure you develop the fight in you to know that it's not just me that's going to work every day. It's not just me that I need to be. It's all about how do we work with others. That's what we got to discuss today. And that's what the important part of what we're going to be talking about is developing that fight in you over a period of time is going to actually put you in a better place, because it's not just about you, it's about building community. All right. So all that being said, as you can tell, I'm already a little fired up because it's a situation that I have to live through, and situations that I have to deal with every single day that make it so. This is absolutely on point. And what inspired this topic is dealing with not just current work situation, but also seeing the pattern. All right. Seeing the pattern from when I was, and I'll dive deeper into this as we get through the article, but seeing the pattern from the minute that even when I played, like I'd even go as far as to back when I played at Stony Brook. Stony Brook University was a small FCS program, and there were coaches who were so afraid of losing players to other programs because it was a small program that took some of the kids that were at bigger schools, or they were very concerned about getting JUCO kids. They were basically letting a lot of people in that you had weaker coaches. You didn't have those coaches that had this hard iron, hey, this is how we're going to do things, and we're not buckling. There's a zero tolerance policy when it comes to this, when it comes to that. There wasn't enough of that. You got to develop fight in you. You got to have some fight in you. I'm telling you from my heart. Hear me from my heart. You got to develop some fight in you. You got to develop the resilience. You got to develop the grit. You got to develop all of this stuff if you're going to have a chance you're going to have a chance at success, if you're going to have a chance for your business to make it to the next level, you got to have some fight in you, right? You got to have some fight in you. And that's the reason for the image for today's article. That was when I was directly involved, and I saw it. Again, I saw it myself. I used to be that coach, that boxing coach that's teaching people jab, cross, uppercut, hook, jab, cross, jab, cross. Like, I developed that. And as I saw ladies, just like the one you're looking at, as I saw them start to develop their ability to defend themselves, the mindset came with it. It was the same thing. It was a correlation, right? As soon as they learn a jab the right way, now their mind is becoming more strengthened. They're not as afraid to approach their husband, not afraid to approach this guy. They're not as afraid to, go to stick up for themselves and speak to their boss in a certain way, or whoever is intimidating them, because they have done the work. All right. That's what we got. We need more of that shit. I'm telling you right now, we need more of that particular, that we need more of it. All right. So when it comes to, there's a breakdown, there's a 5-step breakdown that we have to get into consideration in order to start the process. All right. So let me jump right into the article. All right. This week's theme is fight. And if Monday was about finding the fight within you, Tuesday is about training it. Yes, there's a way of training some fight in you. All right. Building that inner muscle that shows up when things get hard, when comfort starts calling, and when you've got every reason to quit. Let's break it down. First and foremost, exercise. That's the first thing you have to do. And I am not going out and telling you to go become a marathon runner and run every single morning like I do. All right. I'm telling you, you got to do something. You got to fucking do something. You cannot just be sitting on your ass all day and expecting for you to develop in terms of your mind. You have to do something that's going to make you uncomfortable throughout the day. You have to do it. All right. It can't be, okay, this is going on with my kids and, this is hard. No, you have to do something on purpose that puts you in an uncomfortable place, and you got to work your ass off through it. Like today, this morning, we have a colder day out here in South Florida. All right. That did not stop me from running outside. I ran over the bridge. Wind was blowing, the whole thing. You got to do something every single day that's going to push you out of your comfort zone, so you're just ready. All right. Every rep, run, and whistle drill teaches your brain how to endure. If you've been following me for any amount of time, you could have guessed this would make the list. The entire Move Swiftly framework was built from this mindset, this transition from being a college football player to becoming a runner, boxing coach, and now sport and fitness director for a school. Hear me. If you got some fight in, if you want some fight in you, this is where it starts. This is first and foremost where it starts. Last week, I told you about one of my third grade. Again, it's a story I spoke about last week. So last week, as the sport and fitness coach for the school I teach at, right? So last week, I told you about one of my third grade students who climbed the massive dome in our new place. So we have a new playground, and one of the third graders, she climbed all the way up there after being terrified for weeks to do it. This week, now a fifth grader did the same thing, and his entire class cheered him on. That's the moment. That's the lesson. All right. Developing fights starts within. When you take the time to train your mind not to quit when things get tough, you learn how to take the correct approach in situations that would have otherwise ruined your life. Again, if you are internally, let me just break this whole thing down now. If you're internally already training your mind to have the toughness and the grit about you, when you run into situations at work where you may have a conflict or there may be some sort of a confrontation, which is inevitable, it's going to happen. Again, people work together for a certain amount of time. You're going to have some confrontation, but you would have taken the approach of, how do I fix the situation, and not how do I go crying to somebody else about what somebody else is making me feel and how this person making me feel and all this other bullshit that you don't want that kind of shit to come up. You want to say, hey, this is what happened, and this is my suggestion to solve the problem. Let's move forward and fix the situation. Don't sit around crying about what somebody else made you feel and what somebody else did or didn't do, because that stuff that we're going to talk about that in a second, but that kind of stuff doesn't hold up. It doesn't carry any weight. All right. Next thing. That being said, number 2, humility. Hear me. Humility for the people all the way up in the back. You got to be humble enough. And again, there's a lot of folks out there who got a lot of fight in them. And when you develop that fight, you develop that confidence, you develop that energy, but you also got to actually be humble enough when somebody's kicking your ass. You gotta be humble enough to say, hey, I'm getting my ass kicked. All right. Man up and say, hey, I've got my ass kicked, or I lost that fight. I lost that situation. Let's wake up and let's get to work again the next time. All right. So real fighters know when they're outmatched, and they keep showing up anyway. There will be people who are better than you, more experienced, more skilled, and further along. The question is, are you inspired? Here it is right here. All right, here it is. I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this one out loud. I remember writing this and like literally having goosebumps, goosebumps. And hairs like standing up on the back of my neck when I wrote this. All right. It says, there will be people who are better than you, more experienced, more skilled, or further along. The question is, are you inspired by them or envious of them? That's the question. And that's something you got to answer within your heart. You see somebody who's better than you, more experienced, further along, whatever. The question now becomes, are you inspired by their story, inspired by what they become, or are you on your, do you have the haterade? You sip on the haterade and you start becoming envious and you start saying bullshit about how they did this and this is how this one. And I'll give you an example. This was back when I played at Stony Brook, right? There was, and this is the wide receiver room, and this is how a lot of diva wide receivers are, right? So there was, and I'm not gonna put no names out there, but there was a wide receiver who I got to know pretty well, that I would hang out with quite a bit, who was a redshirt freshman. He's a redshirt freshman, and he was in his redshirt year, and he got into some games and stuff like that. And then there was the receiver who was a starter, who was the best, one of the two. He was one of the two best receivers on the team. So there was a game that we played against Brown University in which that particular starting receiver, we lost the game, but that particular starting receiver caught 10 passes, right? So I remember having a conversation with the redshirt receiver, and and I told him, so-and-so caught 10 passes. And he's on the couch like, yeah, but they designed the offense, but he's gonna get a lot of passes and this. And I'm sitting there like, come on, man, got a little salt. You sounded like you got a little haterism in your game, man. Get a guy some credit. He caught 10 passes though. And he goes, yeah, but they design, and that's what I mean. When you see people that in his mind, the fact that he caught 10 passes, he's perceiving him to be better receiver than him. Which again, when it comes to athletic ability, they were both kind of evenly matched and stuff like that. But the point is, when another receiver caught 10 passes and his ass didn't get in the game, then he gotta come up with some, the offense is this and this, and again, it's the same way in the work environment. When somebody makes a move, somebody gets a promotion, somebody gets this, somebody gets that, are you that person that is more congratulatory to the person, or are you on some bullshit where, that person did this, that person, all of that? Again, that's something that you got to ask yourself inspired by. And if you want to develop fight in you, you got to develop the humbleness, the humility to say, hey, I'm inspired by that person. I want to learn from that person. I want to, pick that person's brain so I can start to figure out how I'm going to absorb what that person got going on. And I'm going to try to incorporate some of that into my strategy. And I'm going to do this. And that's how you grow. That's how you grow. Okay. That's how you grow. All right. So because I could talk about that for hours. Let me just give you the two recent examples. Here's my recent example. Over the past 2 weekends, I've run in 2 different 5K. I placed in my age group both times, 3rd in one and 1st in the other. Now, the funny thing is, I only got first last week. I only got first, and I told you guys this on Sunday's Blue 55, but I only became first in my age group because the overall winner, he was in my age group, he couldn't win twice. All right. So either way, someone was faster than me, and that's okay. I looked up the 2 people who beat me, and you know what I found? Both had significant others who are just as dedicated to fitness as they are. They run their businesses together. They compete in Ironman events. Fitness is their lifestyle. Humility is saying, here's what I'm saying. I can learn from that. I looked it up. They both have 2 years on me. All right. It's being inspired enough to accept defeat, get back to work, not letting pride talk you out of progress. And that's what I mean when I say, hey, are you inspired by people? Is when you see somebody on the track and they beat you and you look them up and you're like, okay, cool. What I got to do to get to their level in 2 years? That's what you got to be saying. You can't be on some, oh, man, well, his wife does this and it helps. And fuck that shit, man. Find you a fitness woman, marry her ass, and go go compete. Go compete. And then y'all could go compete together. And that's a lifestyle. That's the kind of people you got to have. All right, let me get to the next one, because the humility factor, as you can see, it's a trigger for me. Let me get to the next one. All right, number 3. Again, all of this is available on medium.com to read this fully. But number 3, Information. Information is power, folks. Information is power. You got to fight with you got to fight with facts. You got to fight with facts, not with your damn feelings. You got to fight with facts, not with your damn feelings. Champions study tape, leaders study people and systems. I said facts, not feelings. Over the years, these are the years that I've been around the block, okay? Over the years, I've learned that relying on personal opinions or interpretations will only get you in trouble, especially in business. Feelings don't hold up in the court of law, and they don't build long-term success. Written policies, documented communication, and clear expectations do. Hear me, this part, again, for the people on the back, I want this to absolutely hit home with you all, okay? Get it right, nice and clear for you all. Written policies, documented communication, and clear expectations do. Those are the things that actually move the needle. Those are the things that actually get things going. Not, oh, well, this one said this about this, and this one said this, and now I'm feeling a certain way when I'm about this person. Written documentation, written policies, documented communication. That is what gets shit done. And I gotta shout out my good friend Kimberly Blue on this one. Shout out to Kimberly Blue on this one, who I got to circle back with her as we get into through the holidays and the New Year's and all that kind of stuff. But Kimberly Blue, every Sunday, she's an HR director, and every Sunday we would do a Stay Hired Sunday, a live stream right on this. And it was her who advised me. She advised me directly, look, document everything, put everything written down on paper, document it, journal it, send it to somebody, and just let it be known that that's what moves the needle. Because when people, and again, I work in an industry where it's a lot of females and they get in their feelings about being around the guys and all this other bullshit that I can care less about. When you start documenting your shit and putting stuff down, okay, they can't really do shit because now you actually have the information and you're not fighting them. You're not going opinion versus opinion. You're going fact versus fact, and how do we solve this issue? Boom, done. Give a shit about what you feel about how much you might like the person or you may not like the person. You got to start fighting with facts, because that's what gets business. That's how business moves. That's how money changes hands. That's how things get done. That's how buildings get built. That's how policy gets made. That's how moves get made, folks. That's how moves get made, is when you start putting some factual stuff down and we can really talk about it and we can really get this shit going. That's what it's all about. And that there's not enough of that. I'm not just speaking on the place where I teach it, but just in general, and all the bullshit that we hear with politics and the system and the schools and all the complaining that so many people do online and all this other shit. You're putting your personal opinion and putting it online as if somebody really gives a shit. No, it's entertainment for a lot of folks. All right. That's what you got to understand. So number 3, you got to have information, facts. All right. If there isn't a system that keeps you safe, create. And then this last point on this. All right. If there isn't a system that keeps you safe, create one. Write things down. Have something you can point back to when things get cloudy, because fighters don't guess, they prepare. All right. Number 4. Now we're getting close to 5 here. We're going to stay a little bit longer than I normally do. So, all right. A personality. You need a personality. Number 4, a personality. Don't fight quietly. Here's what I mean. Yes, this one's a little tongue-in-cheek, but still serious. When I first started working at a boxing gym named 9 Round, which eventually went out of business, several members, and this is when I first started working there. This isn't just coming from me. Just, if the owner's listening, again, love you very much, but this is just some of the things that were said to me by the members, not by him. And he probably first time he's ever hearing this, right? But several members told me something I didn't want to believe, but had to learn the hard way. The owner has no personality. These were things that members said to me directly. They said it to me directly because they saw I have a personality, and they would tell me, hey, the owner, and I'm going to put his name out there, he doesn't have a personality. He doesn't have a personality. Okay. That was the same year that Adam Gase was fired as the Dolphins head coach. And because I worked at 9 Round and I worked at the Miami Dolphins Foundation, and they were telling me, the people who had seen Adam Gase in a press conference, the same thing. Guy's got no personality. He's got no personality. No personality. It's funny, yes, but you got to have one. You got to have a personality, because having a personality means 1 through 3 you've worked through, you kind of are somewhat comfortable being yourself. That's what it indicates. That's what it shows. All right. And they were right. If you're trying to build something, lead something, or keep something alive, you need to stand out. All right. You need to stand out. You don't get to just sit in the back and bullshit. All right. The people who stay quiet about what's important, who wait for others to speak up for them, are often the same ones whose businesses fail. Because when you don't communicate your needs, no one can take them seriously. They don't know the fuck. Like how exactly are we supposed to solve problems that we don't know exist? And that silence will cost you. It'll cost you over time. It'll cost you because you might say something to somebody at the wrong time, at the wrong place. And next thing you know, this one takes it that way. And next thing you know, they're coming at you and you're getting talked to in a way that you don't particularly like, but you didn't express, hey, this is the way I felt about a situation. Now, I don't know how to address it. And again, all of that came from over time being quiet about shit. That's the problem. So finally, number 5, long game. Got to play the long game. Long game commitment. Don't fight for short-term trophies. Ask yourself, are you fighting for something that will last? Because if your goal only matters for a season, it's not a fight. It's a distraction. Building a real fight means committing to things that will outlive you, your work, your systems, your value, your message. It's about playing the long game with faith, focus, and follow through, right? So final word, everyone wants to win, but very few are willing to fight for the win the right way. Fight through the discomfort, fight through with humility, fight with information, fight with present, fight for the long game. And when you do, the victory won't just belong to you, it'll belong to everyone you lead. Again, all of the information, if you want all of this stuff to be incorporated into your organization, the main website to check out to dive deeper into all of that is makeitmove.com. That's MakeYamove.com. Aswand Cruickshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker. Check it out. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.